Yeah, I'm fascinated. My history goes back to financial markets for 40 years now, 45 years. And you always look for mispricing in the markets. And it's very rare you find something like El Salvador that the market is so incredibly underpriced. I think the rating agencies are now catching on. They just raised the rating. The bond market has been extraordinary for El Salvador. It's the best performing emerging market. That's institutional money. Now we have what's called the smart money. This is the folks who are going to come in and start developing more seriously the infrastructure and the tourism and things like that. And then a year from now, we're going to have a line at LaGuardia trying to get on a plane to escape the shithole that is the United States and fleeing, right? You already have the migration numbers are already approaching reverse migration. They're very close now, where you get more people are fleeing the U.S. to El Salvador than vice versa. And so this is, once that flips, I think that's escape velocity. That's how I would define it. Yeah, I think the new Statue of Liberty is a volcano in El Salvador. This has become the home of the brave, land of the free, or is the land of the free, home of the brave? I've forgotten what's going on over there. That landmass wedged between Canada and Mexico, I forget sometimes. But this is really the best investment is to come here. And we've been just in for John over at Me Premier Bitcoin, for example, he came here and the Me Premier Bitcoin is absolutely unbelievable, and he really built that from scratch. And that's the kind of opportunity anybody who comes here who's entrepreneurial has a good idea. And the country needs everything across the board. Anything you do, they want, they need, and that's the message. And I'll say something else about living in El Salvador is that, as was explained to me once by somebody, if you go to Japan or you move to Japan, you never become Japanese. If you move to France, you really never become French. If you go to the US, there's a melting pot and you can become American. It's similar here in El Salvador. People love everyone moving here and they embrace you as family. You become Salvadoran the second you eat your first pupusa. Yeah, I think it's becoming an irresistibly attractive place to come and to move. The Bitcoin aesthetic and the Bitcoin protocol and the Bitcoin philosophy at the core of the Bitcoin phenomenon includes many sociological and even psychological aspects. And I don't think it's a coincidence that after making Bitcoin legal tender, the country then went on a program to make El Salvador the most secure country in the hemisphere, because Bitcoin is a money that is unconfiscatable. And that means that you're demonetizing violence and you're intolerant of violence. It's the birth of a new economy that favors peace, peaceful exchange. Because if you cannot coerce or violently extract wealth from somebody's property, you have to come into the conversation with something that the other person wants. And so that filters throughout the entire country. And that's part of the phenomenon that's going to be bringing a lot of people that might not be interested in Bitcoin, but they want to start a family. And they want to start a family in a safe place. So they'll come to El Salvador. Bitcoin literate, and in the ethos of Bitcoin and the idea of separating money from state, which is one of the core pieces of what makes Bitcoin so appealing, is that for the first time in history you have separated money from state and you create individual sovereignty. And this is incredibly appealing. So it's the fact that it's working here is certainly a shining example. We are the shining city on the hill. We are Camelot. President Bukele is, as I say, it's John F. Kennedy meets Steve Jobs. And the results speak for themselves. The GDP here is going to double in the next 5 to 6 years, I predict, as well as being debt-free by 2030. Definitely, as far as adoption goes, another way I look at adoption is awareness. Awareness is the beginning of adoption. And in this country, you've got 100% awareness of Bitcoin. So that's really 100% beginning to adopt Bitcoin. And it's not about the actual use at the pupuseria, which of course is growing quite rapidly. But the fact that everyone is aware of Bitcoin and starts to think about separating money from state, starts to think about perfect money, starts to think about having absolutely scarce, perfect money. This is begins to create a lot of attraction for people around the world who are looking around and they're not really happy. We just got a delegation from, I guess I can speak on the details. You know, we got a delegation from Santa Monica, California, who arrived and they talked to us about the fact that they are disheartened. They look around and they see the human condition is deteriorating. You know, what can they do to be more like El Salvador? Now, I spent a lot of years in California. I spent a lot of years in Santa Monica. I started a company in Santa Monica. So to have this delegation come from Santa Monica into El Salvador and ask for help, how can we be more like you guys? How can we restore optimism? How can we get rid of this institutionalized cynicism that has become the political sphere in the United States? So that tells you, I think, where we are in the cycle. And we're about to experience an enormous amount. 2 years ago, 18 months ago, Stacy and I would kind of have lunch and talk and say, if we were putting together a dream team of the best Bitcoiners in the world, who would we invite for this? And we reached out and they came. And I think the results speak for themselves. So this is what we really have been able to bring to the table is we've been around a while and we have met everybody in this space. We know pretty much where all the bodies are buried and who's doing actual work. And so we used our Rolodex, which is a technology from the 1970s. I don't know if anyone remembers the Rolodex, but to give you an idea of how old I am.
It's like 4 people.
Let's hear, go boomers. Boomers for Bitcoin. Is it still 3,000? Go back to bed, Grandpa. Okay, so, and we were successful. Yeah, I think that, the threat would be, let's have a civil war. No, we had that already. The threat would be, let's have a gang war. No, we just had that, right? So that they've come out of the threats. They've come out of the dark ages, and it's really a sense of liberation. I mean, I remember those photos after World War II of Liberation Day, Victory in Europe Day, and people in the streets kissing and dancing. And that's really the feeling you get, and people have been liberated. They can actually go outside of their homes. A story I heard a guy say that before Bukele, my house was too small, now my house is too big. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, before Bukele, when the gangs ran the country, we never left our house, and we never had enough room. Now, after Bukele, the gangs are gone, and nobody's home. They're all outside. My house is too big. And so these are the types of stories you hear every single day. People are, actually what's amazing is that the transformation has been so fast. One of the biggest groups of folks that are in disbelief are Salvadorans themselves, who can't believe that they're actually able to walk safely. And you see them down in the Historic Center and other areas of the country just luxuriating in the freedom of walking without being threatened, which is something everyone in the U.S. has taken for granted, and it shows.